Lanky Pat Hickey played first base with a long glove, quick Bobby Walsh at second, scooted all around, rangy Lanny Nielsen at shortstop, throwing long, staunch Norm Nielsen at third base with his quick reaction time, chunky Tim Anderson catching, blocking the plate. Two of our three main pitchers were in the outfield, like Jeff Anderson and myself, or alternates, including sometimes the crippled Billy Caraher, who would catch the ball with his one good arm, then take the glove off and throw the ball with that same arm. I was playing center field one fine evening, we just having enough players that day, as noted upon seeing our empty dugout when we were out in the field. Jeff was pitching a good game, with heat. There's not always a lot to do in center field, although I loved it out there, it having a range. And I was a runner who had a studied knack for getting to the ball and catching it just right. For, when we were just in the park any old time, Patrick Hickey would hit ball after ball for me and his brother Dennis to catch, even near trees. While pitching a game was all action and bearing down, center field was a calm, meditative retreat. I saw that a girl had come to sit on our bench. Who was it that could be so bold and wonderful? You know who. Just about then, a screaming line drive suddenly came bouncing hard into center field, but it was right at me. I picked it up and quick unleashed a throw to home on the fly, just in case. It sailed right on into the backstop, for this is how pitching outfielders who are deep in love throw. It took a lucky bounce right back to the catcher, and they caught someone in a rundown. He was out.
What kind of throw was that?
She throws me, I said, pointing to Karen right there.
Well, it worked out. The guy thought he could make it home.
I headed toward the dugout, looking at Karen. What are you doing out on a school night, my dear?
My mother had to go to my aunt's, the kids too.
And here you are.
In the flesh.
After the game, we walked 2 blocks to one of the first McDonald's for our first date. Dusk thus fell, and we crept back toward her home in the silent dark. Was she really out here? I asked myself later. Recess was outdoors now. The schoolboys all playing 16-inch softball across the street from the church. Baseball gloves were not needed for this size of ball. Sometimes noisy freight trains would go by. There was, too, the building of a large expressway that would pass 30 feet below the main crossroad. These were the wonder years when the lilacs of love had bloomed. Thereafter, one is never the same again. The years yet come and go, but the love flowers remain ever freshened as a daisy in the hallowed shrines of the memories that can stand up against time. Love's first emotion rose from the lilac, for it blooms when nature is first aroused. It is love's youngest dream to us come back, where it will ne'er again remain unspoused. Karen could not usually escape on weekends. She not only not allowed, but ever needing to care for the younger siblings, all 6 of them. And so these were a long 2 days filled with sports and playing poker and all the boys do, like sleeping outside, for we had a tent, and setting off firecrackers.
Everyone had been playing with yo-yos, day in and day out for a few months, for that was the craze. There was a contest every few weeks in the school. We did walk the dog, rock the cradle, 200s of loop-the-loops, and many more we invented.
School days plodded on, but for her love and friendship, all of us getting restless as June began. It was just too nice outside to be stuck in school. What would the summer bring us? Without school, recess, the after-school rendezvous, and Karen's other infrequent escapes, where would that leave us to? It occurred to me that we need not go to school on some of these days of the last weeks. Back then, the school didn't call your house. Oh, for boyhood's time of June, crowding years in one brief moon, when all things I heard or saw, me, their master, waited for. John Greenleaf Whittier. The neighbor kid, Jimmy Nelson, had a treehouse. He smoked cigarettes up there, and in the future, the willow tree and its treehouse would go up in flames.
Karen called me up just before bedtime as usual, and we made a grand, risky plan for the next day. After breakfast, I went out the back door as usual, but stopped first in my tent and grabbed some sleeping bags, then quick climbed up into the treehouse next door. I lazed around a while in the haze of a day that was not all that rare in June, waiting for her.
I lit up some smokes that had been lying about, noting the curved roof as like in a pipe dream. She, the ever-adventurous one, would manage to get here with the school-goers still on the streets, and so no one would be the wiser. Here, we would stay.
My heart leapt as I saw the rope ladder jiggle.
The soft airs waved the curtains, and the warm balm breezed and breathed upon us as we kissed and snuggled and told life and love stories through a long day in June.
A few days later, we were back up there, snug and dear. The last week of grammar school was soon upon us, and then the last day was at hand, the party time. I had been on patrol boy duty all week long at the street near the school, guiding the little ones safely across this last danger to the church and school. I wore the white belt that went diagonally across the chest and over the shoulder and down. The school bell rang to start the day as the last batch of latecomers waited to cross. One last duty, then I would roll up the patrol belt in a certain way and tie it with a rubber band into a package. A truck suddenly veered into another lane on the busier street of this corner and caused a lady's car to go off the road, heading toward us. I spread out my hands as if that would protect the little ones and stop the car. A telephone pole stopped the car. Fortunately, she wasn't going very fast, but there were no seat belts in those days, and so she must have bumped her head, for it was bleeding a bit. She half slid out of the car when the door burst open. I told the kids to wait, and I went to care for her, situating her back into the seat and tilting it back so she could relax until the ambulance came. I was a bit late to school, as I had to tell the police the story of what had happened. At school, although the big party had just begun, the faces were somewhat looking sad and somber at the prospect of the end of the 8 years here. The Oak Parkers would go on to their own high school and the Forest Parkers to theirs. A sad separation. I was caught up in the scene and didn't mention the accident. Karen had been selected to speak. The speech went so well that tears came to my eyes. We didn't say a whole lot during the walk home. We didn't have to, for we were joined at all points. I went off on vacation with my family to a lake in Wisconsin and sent her letters. We got back in time for an important baseball game the next Saturday at an away field. I pitched that day, and it all went well enough except for taking a hard line drive in the shin. Jeff pitched the last 2 innings and sewed up the game.
After the final inning, a dented car drove up, the one that had encountered the telephone pole. Karen and her mother got out and walked toward me. What the heck? I'm in trouble now, I thought.
There was but a bandage where the blood had been, and then Karen's mother gave me an unexpected hug.
Are you the one who truly loves my daughter?
I'm he.
It wasn't the accident per se, she offered, although it did knock some sense into me, but of my daughter's eloquence all along persuading me of your goodness.
She's like that in school, too.
She is a child beyond her times, but still a child like you.
We grow together.
That you have accomplished, and I have just been too Catholic. Karen interjected. You were just looking out for me, Mom. Anyway, Patrick, can you join us for dinner tonight? I need to get to know you. Karen says Shakespeare lives in your school desk, as well as many other fine books that you find time to read in school.
Love is an ever-fixed mark.
I agree. You will always show kindness to her?
I can do no other.
I like that. You didn't just say yes, ma'am, or some standard phrase.
Whew, I thought, this mama's sharp. How's your injury? I inquired.
I'll be fine, but I have to admit that I was spying on you. Karen couldn't resist. God sent you crashing into a pole so you could meet Patrick. He works in crazy ways, her mother replied, purposely altering the quote.
Dinner went well, the little kids knowing me as a patrol boy. So we could now go out on real dates, at least as well and as far as we could, walking to the movies on Lake Street or to the gigantic circular swimming pool and sharing a Green River soda afterwards. And ever to the park bench back we went as well. The summer of love flew by, and we entered our separate high schools. But whatever social lives we had in there were of no concern, for
Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
from a Shakespeare love sonnet. A few months later, the world crashed when Karen's father's company transferred him and his family to California. Nothing much mattered for a while. I was at the edge of doom, but her letters soon perked me up. She had plans to return next year and live with her aunt in Oak Park. She would be going to my high school. The letters strangely stopped around Christmas for about a week or so, and then this last one came from her mother.
Heaven has recalled our angel. She died in her sleep. The doctor said that her heart was too large. She lives within you now, as that ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come.
I had now gone well beyond the edge of doom, but strangely enough, there was beauty there. I wrote, as sadness broods over the morrow, I visit the deep well of sorrow. There enshrined and separate, beauty says, it's from me that sadness you borrow. We have all the time in the world, time enough for life to unfold all the precious things love has in store. We have all the love in the world. If that's all we have, you will find we need nothing more. Every step of the way will find us with the cares of the world far behind us. We have all the time in the world just for love. Nothing more, nothing less. Only love. Louis Armstrong. I am returning to my modern world now, but I'm holding on to one last vision, that of my girlfriend and I walking home from school through the forest, walking the log across the creek.